Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I'm your host Matthew Pekovic and this is episode number 200. Tonight I'm doing something a little different. I'm on Facebook Live to not only talk about the movies but to do like an AMA, Ask Me Anything with yours truly. So if anyone out there wants to hop on and ask me any questions about any movies that are happening right now about my career so far, please do so. And for an added bonus, the best question or comment of the night will win this copy of Halloween on Blu-ray. So log on, get those questions coming, and let me know what you're doing tonight, what movies you're planning to see. Ask me any questions you have about my career so far. 200 episodes into this podcast is quite a big thing for me. I put a lot of work into the podcast over the last year or so. I really want to concentrate on doing stuff with different filmmakers, interviews and such, and it's coming along really well so far. So to do number 200 in this kind of fashion is something I want to do for a really long time. I want to work on more video content, more live video stuff, and have more discussion with you guys and encourage more creator user-generated content. So I've got some things cooking in regards to doing more of that with the website, more of that with my social channel. I see Shane has joined. How are you tonight, Shane? I figured you might be watching the Dragons game tonight as well. So what I really want to do with this Facebook Live stuff, I'm thinking about doing a monthly channel. Or monthly kind of stream. So each month work on one topic, have a guest on, and have you guys help us determine the best of that topic. So for example, we have Avengers Endgame releasing April 24. So I'm thinking maybe we can do like an hour or a couple of hours talking about the best comic book hero movies, or comic book movies I might add. Not so much superhero movies because I want to focus more on comic book adaptations. So something like that, have someone on. I know a few people who are into pop culture and the like, and know a bit about comic books and comic book history and superhero movies. They come from that end as well. We could talk about how the genre has come to be, the legends of the genre. We can talk about who the movers and shakers are within that particular genre, and then we'll put together a list. Myself, the guest, and you guys all together will put together a list. Maybe we could do a comparison list between the two critics versus the fans, and do something like that. And I have been working quite a bit actually on trying to get the YouTube page up as well. So I don't know if you go over there now, you're going to see there's a lot more trailers there. Some trailers that have been dropped lately, rather good, and I'd like to talk about those later as well. And also my podcast is up there as well, so you can find the podcast on a lot of different places. You got iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, SoundCloud. I know I put up a lot of stuff on there. SoundCloud's really cool because it's really, I can embed certain things on my website through SoundCloud, stuff you can't do through iTunes. So yeah, that's something I definitely want to do. Jade, nice to see you as well. Long time follower of mine. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. You asked me, you really love to know what the one I love is. In regards to what, Jade? Superhero movie? Is that the one you're asking about? How specific do you want to get to? Like, do we want to break it down to DC and Marvel, etc.? Because I do have favorites from both kind of both different houses, so to say. I mean, overall, my favorite, if you're going to say just like superhero comic book movie, I am a really big fan of The Dark Knight Rises. The whole trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy, that Chris Nolan has put together. To me, that is just great filmmaking because it kind of transcends the genre, and it definitely did put it up to another plateau, the stuff that Chris Nolan did with that movie. Now, a lot of people say that they like The Dark Knight, and for good reason. I mean, it's a brilliant movie, well put together. Heath Ledger, of course, giving a great Oscar-nominated performance. A lot of people just love what he did there, yours included. And there's a lot of things in that movie I did like, but the one thing I didn't like in that, and something that's actually quite ridiculed over the years since it's been released, and I think it's been 11 years since that movie came out, is while Christian Bale, I think, is a fantastic Bruce Wayne, his Batman, that kind of barking kind of thing that he does with his voice just really put me off. I remember watching that film, actually. I got invited to a screening when there used to be an IMAX down in Darling Harbour. They actually showed that movie there. And it was quite a thing to watch a movie like that on a big screen, like the IMAX screen, and everything just coming at you. And the one thing that stuck with me, or two things that stuck with me. Number one, Heath Ledger's performance, and number two, Christian Bale's kind of that raspy, kind of over the top voice. I wasn't a fan of it. By the time this Dark Knight Rises came along, I think he just turned it down a little bit and put it to a register that was at least acceptable. And that movie, Dark Knight Rises, to me, that is really excellent superhero movie filmmaking, because to be a great comic book movie, a great superhero movie, you got to have stakes. The stakes have got to be high. They got to be tense. These heroes have to have something to fight for. And in that movie, and look, there will be spoiler talk about the movie. I'm sure that movie's been out for I don't know how many years, 7 years now. So we're not going to go. I'm not going to give away anything, or at least I hope not. But that film especially, there are things that happen in that movie to the Bruce Wayne character, to Gotham City, and to a lot of other characters as well, where the stakes get really high. And the Bane character portrayed by Tom Hardy, to me, out of all of the Batman films, the three of them, a lot of people say that they like Heath Ledger's performance as Joker, and so do I. But for me, Tom Hardy as Bane was fantastic. Now, of course, he's got the voice and all that, and I think I might do a little impersonation. He kind of talks like this. He's got the mask, just the voice, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people didn't like it. I loved it myself. I especially loved the parodies of that. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but there's someone took scenes from The Dark Knight Rises and did these kind of parody, kind of lip sync videos. The only problem is you can't really lip sync Tom Hardy's voice, right? So they had a little fun with that. He does like a rap, it's all sorts of stuff. So Jay, Dark Knight Rises, to me, my favourite out of the bunch, but I also love the first Avengers movie. I think it's fantastic. The original Superman from 1978, that to me, I mean, if we were going to do like an episode on superhero films or comic book adaptations, if I was going to talk about a movie that set the tone and really kind of brought forth the potential that the genre had as in a film medium, that would be the one I put on top, because I still to this day, the way that Richard Donner worked on that movie, the way that he brought about, found Christopher Reeve, he made us believe a man could fly, the origin story. A lot of people don't like to watch origin stories these days on screen because they're being done to death, but this was the template for all of that stuff that came afterwards. Even like the whole thing with Marlon Brando only being in it for like 15 minutes. Another thing, just on that note, you guys, after this, should really check out video of a interview Christopher Reeve did. I'm not sure how long after Superman came out that he did this interview, but he did an interview and he was asked about Marlon Brando, and he didn't have the most flattering stuff to say about him, which is, very consistent in a lot of ways. A lot of people do talk about how brilliant Brando is, and I'm a huge fan of Marlon Brando, how brilliant he is, how much of a terrific actor he was, but he was also came across sometimes very unprofessional on a set. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Brando actually read lines through place cards. So it was placed all around the set. Sometimes the place cards would be placed in front the actor in front of him, just like here. So Brando would do that famous, he'll talk a bit and then he'll look to the left. When he's looking to this way, he's looking at a place card. He didn't even want to learn his lines. By that point, he didn't give a shit, right? So he's looking to the right, he's like, and then he'll come back and he'll do his kind of thing. So yeah, Christopher Reeve didn't have the nicest things to say about Marlon Brando. Of course, he said how much he respected him and his genius as an actor, but the guy was there for a pretty big payday at that time. 1978, it was like a few $1 million for like a very small amount of screen time. But yeah, that Superman movie, definitely. Another film that I like as well that a lot of people don't talk much about is Watchmen. The interesting thing about that movie is that I don't remember any other films before that, with perhaps The Crow that came out in 1993. That was the first kind of movie that really showed how you can take a superhero movie, you know, like a comic book movie, and make it really edgy and hardcore. That was like pretty sure it was an R-rated film here. Actually, I think it was MA. Should have been an R because there's some scenes in that film, man. But it was a pretty full-on film, but really well done. Really showed how great of a director Zack Snyder can be when he has, when he's just on a roll. I mean, at that time he had done 300, which was also an adaptation of a graphic novel, at least. Dawn of the Dead remake, and then when Watchmen came out, it was terrific. And I have a certain affinity with that Watchmen movie, because that was one of the first films that I actually did like a press junket for. I got to meet Zack Snyder, I met Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Malin Ackerman, all terrific people. I was really nervous. It was only one of the few kind of interviews I'd done with like really kind of big Hollywood kind of personalities and celebrities. So that film always has a special place in my heart, but also to the fact that I think it is a pretty good film, and I can't wait for the HBO series to come out. I don't get a chance to watch TV much, but certain shows when they come out, I do definitely put some time aside and try to watch these shows. So yeah, look, moving forward, I really do want to do this type of thing on a more consistent basis. It's really up to you guys though. I like people to join in, you know, so if you can, share this feed right now with your friends. Go and let them know that we're doing some great movie discussion, and you know, we just keep it rolling. Does anyone else have any questions? Shane, Jade, anything you want to ask me in regards to movies, anything coming up? I was speaking about my YouTube channel before. As I said before, I'm now placing trailers back up there again. I haven't done it for a long time because I was having problems with copyright strikes and such. It seems that YouTube are a little more lenient with this stuff now, and I only putting up stuff that's been sent to me from distributors. So usually if I get a copyright strike in regards to putting up content, I fire right back and say, hey, look, the distributor asked me to put this stuff up and share it with everyone, so here I am, I'm doing it. So yeah, trailers. So today dropped the trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just see here I got likes from Matt. Hello, Matt Frame. Anyone who doesn't know Matt Frame, he's got a great film out right now called Camp Death 3 in 2D. Sorry for stuffing up the title there, Matt. It's like a spoof of like slasher films and such. It's really abrasive, really in your face, really non-PC, so just know that before going in it, but it's a parody of all those slasher films. So thank you very much, Matt, for hitting a like. Alex, thank you very much for hitting a like as well. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to hit my way, let's talk, man. Let's do it. But going back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this is the new film by Quentin Tarantino. So I am a big fan of Tarantino, excuse me there. The problem I had lately with his films though was that have I seen the intro of Lucian's God? What did I think? I'm a huge Noah Hawley fan. Peter, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for that question. I have seen the trailer. I put that trailer up on my YouTube page yesterday. I shared a link of it in my Facebook page as well. There's an image of Natalie Portman that came out with the trailer as well. Yeah, Noah Hawley, from what I can gather of his career, a lot of TV work. So he's done stuff with Legion, which is the kind of like an X-Men spin-off show that's on TV now, starring Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey fame. He's gone on to do some really good stuff. And Noah Hawley's also done stuff with the Fargo TV show as well. I have seen the trailer. It looks really interesting, doesn't it? Kind of like this post-traumatic stress thing of this astronaut has this really kind of translucent experience during a space travel, comes back on Earth, has these kind of kind of trips out a bit. Some reality to it as well. I don't know if you guys remember from several years ago that story about that astronaut who kind of lost her marbles, and I don't know all the details off the top of my head. She lost her marbles. She went cross country looking for her ex-husband, and you know, it was just like a really weird kind of thing. It was like a domestic thing, and so supposedly the space travel did something to her mind and to her head. So you could definitely see why a lot of people go through, a lot of these astronauts go through a rigorous training, not only for the physical side, but for the mental as well. But I guess you really don't know what it's like until you're up there. And anything to do with loosely based on a true story. Yeah, see, Peter, I think you and I are kind of like thinking of the same thing as well. The same kind of story. I'm pretty sure that the character. So I remember in the trailer, Natalie Portman's character has a southern accent, kind of like a Texan accent. So she must be. I think the real life person that this happened to actually was from that region of America. So it's just such a fascinating story. The visuals look great. I think it's going to look great on the big screen. I'm a big fan of Natalie Portman as well. That film, the film also stars Dan Stevens, who I mentioned before, was in Legion, has John Hamm as well. He's been doing some good stuff outside of now Mad Men's finished. I think a lot of people were hoping, going back to the whole superhero movie discussion, a lot of people were hoping that he will play kind of like Batman or Superman. I think he's a little too old to play those characters now. Besides, the rumour mill has it that Armie Hammer might be playing Batman, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure he was originally set to play Batman in a production of Justice League that was supposed to be done in the early 2000s. I think it's like 2007, 2008, maybe a little before that. George Miller was going to direct it. It went all the way up to costume. There's a picture out there of these guys in costume. Megan Gale was set to play Wonder Woman. A bunch of other people as well. So they had it ready to go, and then funding fell through and the movie didn't go anywhere. And then Warner Brothers went back to the drawing board and started up things again, and that's when Man of Steel and all those other films kind of came out. Excuse me here while I drink from my Batman glass. So yeah, Peter, definitely Lucy in the Sky looks terrific. Hasn't got a release date yet. I know it's coming out late 2019, so I'm thinking maybe a September, October release. Maybe later if they think that it has a potential for awards consideration. Natalie Portman, always a favourite with the Academy, so it could be a possibility there as well. Going back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and my thoughts on Quentin Tarantino. So the last movie of his that I saw was The Hateful Eight. I liked the film. I think the problem I have with Tarantino lately, especially in his last few features, is that the guy really needs an editor, and he really needs an honest voice to cut down his screenplay and the length of his films. I think they go for too long. I know the whole thing about Tarantino is that the dialogue of his films is the strength of his films. Hands down, he's a terrific writer, but sometimes his films go a little bit too long. His characters talk a little too much. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, hopefully, kind of will change that, but who knows? It's Tarantino. I mean, the man is his own industry. He doesn't really fall to any yes men. So it looks great though. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. They play DiCaprio plays kind of like a fading movie star, and Brad Pitt plays his stuntman. The movie's set in 1969, which for anyone who knows their Hollywood history is really interesting, because that was a time of transition from like the old kind of studio system in Hollywood, the time of John Wayne and Cary Grant and such, and transition over to this new style of Hollywood, which was less studio driven and more actor and director driven. This is the time when the likes of Francis Ford Coppola, Peter Bogdanovich and Martin Scorsese came to the fore and really changed things. And for a brief period there, it did feel like that Hollywood was run by the artists more than the business. And like I said, anyone knows their Hollywood history knows there was certain things that happened around this era that really changed things. So in regards to the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in regards to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the movie will touch on the Sharon Tate murders. So Margot Robbie stars in the film. I don't think she's playing Sharon Tate full on, but definitely a character inspired by Sharon Tate, and anyone who knows who that is, she was at the time married to Roman Polanski, who was the great director who did films such as Rosemary's Baby, Chinatown, etc. And Sharon Tate while she was pregnant, heavily pregnant as well, she was killed by the followers of Charles Manson under the direction of Charles Manson. And Charles Manson will be depicted in the movie by an Australian actor. I'm just going to get his name now. Damon Herman. Now, he's a actor and also a director as well. He did a film called Down Under, which came out about 3-4 years ago, and that movie was based loosely on the Cronulla riots, but it was kind of like a satirical kind of movie as well. Have any interest in seeing a sequel to Alita Battle Angel? Asked Peter. Look, I saw the film, haven't written a review yet, and I do apologise for that, guys. I am working on reviews. Hopefully I should have them up soon. I just finished my review for Hotel Mumbai a couple of days ago, and also I'm almost finished my review for Fighting with My Family. I hopefully should have them up tonight or tomorrow. It's been, as a working dad, with a son who's got autism, things can get like really kind of busy around here, but I'm trying my best to get on top of it. But back to your question, Peter, am I interested in a sequel to Alita Battle Angel? Look, I thought that Alita Battle Angel was an okay film. Look, visually, it's remarkable. The things they can do these days, like, of course, we're talking about James Cameron, who wrote and produced the film. He's just always been at the forefront. Just checking here that Wayne has come on. Hello, Wayne. Very great to see that you're joining us, joining me today and all of us in the discussion here. We'll just talk about Alita Battle Angel. Do I want to see a sequel? Look, I loved the special effects work. I think it was terrific. Robert Rodriguez is a terrific director. However, this film didn't really grab me like I hoped it would. So in regards to a sequel, would I be interested in watching it? Sure, because the movie, if anyone has seen it, doesn't really end as at a really like final kind of thing. There's more to come, definitely. You can kind of see that happening. Would I see it? Yeah, oh sure. But if it never comes, I won't really be too fussed about it either. Hopefully, if a sequel does come, a movie like Alita Battle Angel, it's an origin story. I talked about origin stories before in regards to the Superman movie. They're kind of old hat now. I think a lot of people kind of like are used to the formula of it, and they just kind of roll their eyes at it now and don't really have much interest in it. So you got to have something more happening in that film. So hopefully, if a sequel does come along, and global box office wise indicates that perhaps it will, I'll watch it, and hopefully it'll be more of a kind of action driven movie and has more kind of pacing to it. I think what the problem I had with Alita Battle Angel is that the pacing wasn't really up to snuff for me. I kind of dragged in moments, and because of that, it pretty average. So Peter, you're just saying you thought Alita was most pretty average, it's enough in the world, and loved the main character enough to eager for one. Has great potential. See, potential, yes, definitely. It has potential to be something more than it was. If it's stuck, but a lot of it's going to come down to how much money it's going to make worldwide. I think it's just creeping up to around 400 mil worldwide. In the States, it did okay, but international box office, I think especially like Asian territories, where movies like Alita Battle Angel, which very much has a kind of like an anime kind of feel to it. I think it's going to do is doing really well there and is pushing that forward. So look, if they push things forward, if the momentum is better, they keep working. If those action scenes, like there was some great action scenes in that film, I think you agree, Peter, in regards to Alita Battle Angel, if they just keep doing heaps more of that, better supporting characters as well. Some of the support work here wasn't so good. There was a love story in this movie that I just didn't buy into. They work on this stuff a little more. James Cameron maybe if James Cameron takes over the reins, I don't know. He's busy doing all the Avatar sequels, so he probably won't have time anyway. I check it out for sure. But like I said, if it didn't, if it doesn't come to be, then I'm not going to be fussed about it either. So Wayne, you asked me how many hours would I spend on watching movies. That's a really good question. Really depends on what I have in front of me. So as this is podcast number 200, as you can imagine, I've talked to a lot of filmmakers, so I'm watching a lot of their movies. This week has been a light week, so I'm just trying to think how many movies I've seen this week. not many this week actually, because I haven't been to a screening in a while. But last week and the week before that, God, I can do maybe, if I can fit in 1 to 2 movies a day, I think that's pretty much average, because I'm interviewing directors, I'm reviewing movies. So in 1 week, a busy week for me would be, and this is going to be next week for me actually. I got 2 movies next week. So one of them on Monday is going to be Pet Sematary remake, which I'm really excited to see. And Tuesday night is going to be the film Us, which is the next film by Jordan Peele. So I'm going to have them 2. I got a couple of films coming out on video on demand I need to review, so I got 2 of those put together. I got a bunch of movies on DVD come to me as well, and I like watching classic films as well. So like if I can put in, say, 5 to 6 films a week, so just say that's average runtime of 90 minutes. What does that come to? Let's just do a real quick thing here. Let's see. 540 minutes. Yeah, look, it's going to be at least like 4 or 5 hours of looking at the stuff. So you got to understand, though, I really try to pace myself and how much I watch, because I very much know that I need to write reviews about this stuff. So reviews can take up to 3 hours for me to do. So I got the movie, I got my notes, I write a draft first, so notepad, something like this. I don't know if you guys saw that picture I put up on Instagram and also on Facebook. I don't know how long ago was it. A couple of weeks ago, I had like a pile of notepads, like huge, right? And that just shows all the work that I've put in over the years, because I write everything, notes and then drafts. So I do my draft, and after my draft, excuse me, I type it up, and after I type it up, I proofread it, and after that I make the page on the program that I use for my website. So by the end of it, it's around 3 hours that it takes to write a review for stuff. I'm actually watching the film tomorrow. Just give me a moment. So I'm watching the film tomorrow. I'm going to be watching Shazam. Speaking about superhero movies, so the latest kind of DC movie that's going to be coming out. Early buzz is really good. I'm going to watch tomorrow. I can't put a review up until Sunday though, because there's a world wide embargo. So it'll be Sunday morning though. So I'll be trying my best to be the first to put it out there. But as soon as I watch it, as soon as I come home, or when I get a chance to, I'm going to write a review straight away. The problem I have with writing reviews, and this is coming from like my perspective as a profession, is that I watch the movies, and by the time I get home, all the stuff that's so busy, just how it is my family life at the moment, I kind of put stuff aside, and now I've got a big part and I catch up. So right now I'm in the middle of a catch up. But hopefully by the end of the week, I'm going to catch up a bunch of stuff and have some reviews up for you. Peter, you asked, what is my favourite film of the year so far? Yours is The Guilty. That is the German film, isn't it? That came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a few weeks ago. Australian release dates. Look, it's really interesting. Feature film-wise, like movies I see like on the big screen, I can't really choose one. I haven't had one that's really hit out at me, and I'll be like, oh man, that's the best film I've seen so far this year. I mean, Hotel Mumbai, which I saw a couple of weeks ago, is a terrific film. Now I don't know about you guys if you know this, but that Swedish. Thank you, Peter. The Guilty, Swedish. I don't know if you guys know about this, but Hotel Mumbai is based on a true story about the Mumbai terror attacks back in 2008. Now, of course, considering what happened in Christchurch on Friday, the film took a big hit box office-wise. In Australia, it came number 2 at the box office, a little over under $1 million. But in New Zealand, it's been pushed back for how long, I'm not sure. Which I don't really agree with. I don't think... the film is about like a terrorist attack, but it's also about the humanity of the people who survived the attack and how they help each other. I mean, it's really heartbreaking, but really triumphant story at the end of it. That while these bastards can terrorize us, at the end we all come together and we fight back through our kindness and our love. And I think that's really kind of important message that film has. Danish. So we went from German, Swedish to Danish. Thank you very much, Peter. The Guilty is definitely one I need to watch. I really look forward to it. I'm pretty sure it was actually Oscar nominated as well for Best Foreign Film this past Oscars. So look, so far I'd say Hotel Mumbai is, look, yeah, you're absolutely right, Peter. Brutal, but absolutely pivotal viewing, especially in the light of what's been happening lately. I think it's a film everyone should definitely see. That's one of the reviews I have written, actually, and I'll have up very soon, and I'll give that one 4 stars. I've watched a lot of things on video on demand as well, so a lot of the people that I've interviewed on my podcast are filmmakers, independent filmmakers, so a lot of the stuff does get a limited release in the States, but mostly it goes on video on demand. And there's some films there that I've watched that's really they're really good. Look, don't let it fool you. Just because a film has a low budget and because some of the production might not be up to stuff compared to like the big Hollywood stuff. Yeah, I mean, Tommy has joined. Tom, thank you very much for joining here. If any questions about movies or anything, please do tell me. Tom is my first cousin, by the way, so it's great to see my family here on board. Peter, not sure if you ever see it again. Yeah, look, that film was definitely brutal. Great filmmaking though. The director, Anthony Maris, is Aussie, and some of the film was actually shot in Australia. So yeah, not sure if you guys see it again. I definitely know what you mean. There are some films like that that are really kind of brutal and it's hard to watch again. I found a movie like talking about films that I think are really relevant but hard to watch. Schindler's List is a film like that. I've seen it a couple times, but like, you know, it's a film that's really hard to watch. The Passion of the Christ is a film that I used to watch on every Good Friday for quite a bit of time. But I can't do it anymore. Well, number one, I got kids now, so like, you know, I can't watch like a film like that with my kids around. And number two, I think I've seen it enough to know, you know, exactly what's going on there. So some films are really hard to watch. Shay Romans, thank you very much for joining us. If I have any questions about movies, anything like that, let me know. And I don't know how many people at the start of the podcast of this Facebook live feed heard this, but my favorite question and comment wins a prize in the night. Halloween on Blu-ray right there will be yours. If you already have Halloween, I've got some other stock here as well that I can provide for you. But only one question, one comment will be chosen at the end of the night as the best of the night. But going back, just something I was talking about. Wow, so Peter, you just said you saw Hotel Mumbai the day of the Christchurch attacks. You got out the cinemas, checked the news, and there it was, terrifying, surreal. I'd imagine so. I mean, the timing of that whole kind of thing is quite incredible, actually, for it to happen. Look, terrorist attacks happen quite a bit. I don't know if you guys have been checking what's happening in Nigeria. Similar to what happened in Christchurch, there are churches, Christian churches that have been attacked on a consistent basis. So these things happen. But for it to happen so close to us at home, to our neighbours next door in New Zealand, and for that movie to come out at the same time, it's kind of creepy, and really is a bummer for the people who made Hotel Mumbai and distributors getting out there, because it is a good film, and I think it's one of those films that people should see. Whether they will after all the things that happen, I don't know, but I recommend you going out and see that, because like myself and Peter have said, it is a brutal film to watch considering the violence, because this was a terrorist attack that had 170 people die at the end of it, but it's also a film about the humanity of the people who are working at the Taj Hotel. They're helping each other. People getting together during this really kind of stressful situation, dangerous situation, putting their lives on the line. This shows a really great humanity, which is on the other side of instances like this. Yes, there are bad people out there who do really bad things, but don't forget about the good people, the heroes out there that put their lives on the line, the first responders, those people. I don't know if you saw the story in Christchurch about that bloke who actually tried to wrestle the gun out of that bastard's hands. There are stories like that, and Hotel Mumbai talks about that story. Going back to Tarantino, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood looks terrific, based in 1969. I was saying before that there are a few instances during that era which really changed things. So number one will be the Sharon Tate murders. That pretty much killed the whole kind of hippie kind of love is love kind of generation, you know, what's happening there. Charles Manson really became a boogeyman for a generation that really kind of resonated at that time. And also another thing that happened years later in regards to Hollywood as a business is that while directors like Bogdanovich and Scorsese and Coppola and the like were kind of like, you know, running things, and the old studio system way of how things were run was on the wayside. Films came out like Heaven's Gate. I don't know if you guys heard of this movie before. So it was directed by Michael Cimino, and he became popular because of a film he directed called The Deer Hunter. Terrific movie, one of my favourite films of all time, released in 1978, about the Vietnam War, starred Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken, who won an Oscar for his performance in that film. Meryl Streep is in it too. Bunch of other great actors. John Cazale, the late great John Cazale, is in it too. So Michael Cimino made a film called Heaven's Gate, and at that time directors, especially award-winning directors like Michael Cimino, were getting carte blanche and doing whatever they wanted on set, and it turned out to be a disaster. It went over budget, no one watched it, critics didn't like it, and that's when people kind of, you know, studio heads kind of, you know, said, we got to take the reins back here a bit. And at that time also you had filmmakers like Steven Spielberg with Jaws, George Lucas with Star Wars. They were making these big budget studio movies, which kind of a lot of people, you know, these days when people talk about Jaws and Star Wars, they do so with much enthusiasm and they love those movies. I love those movies. Like Jaws and Star Wars are in like my top movies of all time. But a lot of people also said that those are the films that introduced the summer blockbuster, and films post that were more interested in box office than they were in character and such. And look, a lot of that is true. But you know, Hollywood is a business, and so that's just the way it goes. But look, going back to Tarantino, I really do hope that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a return to form of the earlier Tarantino stuff like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. I hope that it doesn't go too long, and I hope that, you know, he just throttles it back just a bit in regards to his character's dialogue, how to go about things, because I know The Hateful Eight was good, but man, at times was just a little too much. Sometimes Tarantino needs to understand the power of silence and not so much the power of a jibber jabber all the time. Okay, Peter, you asked, what's my most anticipated film for the rest of the year? You have to say Us. You know, so I'm actually working right now on my top 10 anticipated films of 2019. So I've got a bunch of stuff in the fire that I'm hoping to have up before April, because when it comes to April, I got some big things I want to announce in regards to the start of that month, and I'll probably do so on this podcast. So I actually got everything listed up. Number one, well, look, it's a bit of a trick question because I have two films that are both at the top spot there. So one of them is The Irishman. Now, I don't know if you heard of this film, Peter, and the rest of you guys out there, but this is a film about a hitman who says that he killed Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa, for those who don't know, was a union boss, I think, like back in there, I'm going to say 40s, 50s. I might have the timeline wrong there, but you have to forgive me. And so, but no one, people know this guy's dead because he got in trouble with gangsters. We have a union, the kind of union movement, and it was in conflict with a lot of things going on there. No one has been able to find him, and so it's become like a pop culture joke. It's like, where's Jimmy Hoffa buried? So one guy actually came forward. He was a hitman at the time, and he said he killed Jimmy Hoffa. Now this is based on his account of events of that time. Robert De Niro is playing that character. Al Pacino is playing Jimmy Hoffa. So right there, you got a 1-2 punch that I'm already anticipating and watching. Yes, Peter, exactly right. Directed by Martin Scorsese. Movie also stars Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel. So you already got this kind of the old Scorsese guys back, you know, into it again. Ray Romano is in it. I don't know about you guys, but Ray Romano has actually been doing some really good dramatic work after the whole kind of everybody loves Raymond phenomenon. He's got a movie right now on Netflix called Paddleton, which a lot of people are saying is just terrific, and he's terrific in it. Sebastian Maniscalco, who's one of my favourite stand-up comedians, he's in it as well. Bobby Cannavale is in it as well. So you got all these guys that are in it. It's a Netflix film, so it's going to be released on Netflix. So far, they say November of this year. But there's been some problems in regards to the film's budget. It just spiraled out of control. So I don't know if you guys been watching the Marvel films lately, and even the Star Wars movie. So what you are seeing now in regards to a lot of characters in flashback sequences, they have these de-aging special effects technology. So pretty much a guy on screen who's like, say, Robert Downey Jr., for example, who's like almost 50, if not over 50. At the start of Captain America Civil War, he's playing himself at the age of 20-something, and that de-aging technology makes it look very much like that. That's Robert Downey Jr. at 20 years old. Captain Marvel, Samuel L. Jackson, in that film, they used the de-aging technology with him as well to make him look younger, because of course he's playing a younger version of Nick Fury. So The Irishman is going to have all these actors who are like in their 70s and such, but the start of the film is going to see them actually in their 30s and 40s and aging gradually over the years. Now, before, of course, makeup effects would do that, but what Scorsese is doing is a lot of work in post-production with this de-aging technology. But because of that, the budget has gone way out of control. It started off, I think, like as a $80 to $100 million budget film at Paramount Pictures, and then once the post-production stuff started happening and the money started out of control, Paramount looked at the figures and said, look, we're not going to put our money towards this, we're going to walk away. Netflix jumped on top of it, so they're like, we're going to give you all the money in the world, because hey, look, it's Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel, gangster film, epic. I think it has the potential to be something really terrific. Or it also has some other ramifications down the line, because it's a Netflix film. They're going to push it like they did for Roma. They're going to push it to for Oscars consideration. Roma, a lot of people thought that film should have won the Oscar, and I thought so as well, but that it didn't win says to me that a lot of people in the Academy aren't quite ready for the streaming service to start taking away Best Picture or the Best Picture Oscar just as yet. So The Irishman right now stands at number 1 as my most anticipated film for this year. There's another movie though that could bump it off. The problem is I don't know when it's going to be released, and the reason I say that is because it's a Terrence Malick film. It's called Radagund, and pretty much it's the basis of the story is very similar in the way that Hacksaw Ridge was similar, in that it's a wartime story about conscientious objector who refused to go to war or carry arms. In this case, in this film, it's a true story of a Austrian named Franz Jagerstatter, and look, I'm very sorry about any of my Austrian family in Austria over there for my pronunciation, but he was a conscientious objector who refused to fight for the Nazis in World War II. It's based on a true story, and the movie stars Matthias Schroenert, Michael Nyqvist, Bruno Ganz was in it before he passed away. And it's written by Terrence Malick, and from all indications, it's Terrence Malick going back to his narrative form of filmmaking that first started with films like Badlands and Days of Heaven. Anyone out there who's seen Terrence Malick films, his filmmaking these days, or the structure of his films is more in flux. It almost comes across as improvisational, almost like a poetry in film. Some people don't like it. I love it myself. Tree of Life is one of my favourite movies, and Terrence Malick is one of my favourite filmmakers. So right now, going back and forth between Scorsese's The Irishman and Terrence Malick's Radagund. Endgame, of course, is a film I'm looking forward to as well. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a new Rambo film coming out this year, Rambo 5. Sylvester Stallone says it's going to be the last Rambo movie. Hey, he said that last time as well, back in 2008 when Rambo came out. So he's going to star once again as John J. Rambo, but this time he's taking on the Mexican cartel, so expect lots of violence, Rambo style, in this movie. So that's another film I'm looking forward to. Hobbs and Shaw, the spin-off from Fast and the Furious, with Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham playing the characters of Hobbs and Shaw, which were so popular in the Fast and the Furious films. That really has a kind of like an old school 80s kind of Tango and Cash kind of vibe. And I love both actors, and I like the Fast and Furious series. It's a really interesting franchise, that one, because the later films are way better than the first ones. So that's another film I'm looking forward to. Mel Gibson has a new film coming out in August called Dragged Across Concrete, that he's starring in that with Vince Vaughn. I just got to bring up the director's name because I'm just drawing a blank on it. Craig, I think his name is... Craig Zahler. Now, this is a guy who did Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell. It's a really cool western, and Brawl in Cell Block 99 as well. So he's one of my favourite directors. He's that kind of guy that's really a genre cult director, and I think Dragged Across Concrete has really potential to take it into the mainstream. I'm a big fan of Mel Gibson. Look, his personal stuff aside, and I know you guys have heard me say I like to separate the art from the artist. I love him as an actor and a director. He's not directed this, he's starring in it, but it's also got him, it's got Vince Vaughn, Michael J. White's in it. He's one of my favourite actors as well. So those are the few of the films I'm really looking forward to watching this year, Peter. Let's go have a drink here. So Peter, you asked me, what do I think of the whole Netflix/cinema debate? I assume you're asking about the whole kind of like Steven Spielberg thing about where he's asking the Academy to consider not having Netflix films be accepted in the Academy, so not to be nominated for any films. Look, I have watched heaps, like I said before, I've been watching a lot of things on video on demand, and these days streaming is a very viable and very reliable way to watch movies. The cinema experience, I absolutely love it. It's a communal experience. Some people go as far as say it's like their church. I'm not going to go that far and go down that road as a churchgoer myself, because I just don't compare the two. But as an experience to have, it's a fantastic thing to be sitting in a room with people, whether they're friends or strangers, what have you, watch a film together on a big screen. It's terrific. It'd be very expensive though as well. If you talk to a lot of families, a lot of people say that they don't go to the cinema anymore because, just say it's husband, wife, 2 kids. When you put together the tickets and the popcorn and all that kind of stuff, you get like $150 a night. It's pretty expensive. So a lot of films that if people opt to watch a film via streaming, I think they can get just as much out of the streaming experience, especially considering the technology that we have now, the big screen TVs, the entertainment setups, etc., than they can from the cinema experience. Look, it's definitely like 1A, 1B for me. The cinema experience is always above watching the film like on a computer or on TV, etc. But still a very viable way to watch a film. I do get a lot out of watching films that way. Yeah, Peter, you're exactly right. You work at a cinema, super expensive night films, absolutely. So people do opt to go to stay home, Netflix and chill, right? Single people, family, etc. But I'm sure you agree with me as well, being a movie lover, working in a cinema, but you can't beat the experience, putting all that stuff aside of watching that film, hit the screen and just taking it in. But I think also watching the film at home, and it's up to you actually as a movie lover to be kind of invested in it, right? You gotta put your phone aside, no social media, nothing like that, and watch the film as it is. So if a film comes out on Netflix and it's a great quality film, the performances are terrific, the storytelling is great, the editing, the pacing's there, the cinematography's there, the direction's great, why shouldn't it be seen as a great film in par with movies you see at the cinema? And in that note, if it is seen as a great movie, why shouldn't it be nominated for awards, especially the Academy Awards? I mean, let's face it these days. just as many people will probably watch films on Netflix and such as they do at the cinemas. A lot of filmmakers out there have both independent and established have found that streaming, whether through Netflix or Amazon or Vimeo or YouTube even, is a great way for them to get their films out there. And I think that when Steven Spielberg says something like, well, they shouldn't, Netflix films shouldn't be allowed to be in contention with theatrical releases, I think it's kind of old school thinking. Kind of reminds me of when, Napster came out, and a lot of people were fighting against that. I can understand from like a copyright standpoint, some people would be upset about it, but as a technology driven kind of thing, look, you just got to go with the flow and try to get movies out there to people who want to see them and how they want to see it. So look, when it comes to the whole Netflix cinema thing, Peter, I'm all for people watching films on Netflix. I'm all for people opting to watch films on Netflix over the cinema, but at the same time I also say there's some films that you need to watch in the cinema as well. We'll talk about Alita, Battle Angel before. Lloyd has joined. Lloyd, my good friend, thank you very much for joining tonight. If you have any questions about movies or anything like that, do so. Actually, Lloyd, you being here kind of reminded me to bring up a topic that in regards to heavy metal and film. You and I are fellow metalheads, so I am going to get on that next. But yeah, Peter, look, I'm all for Netflix being accepted as a way for people to watch films, but also, I think it should also be given nominations and awards and such as well. And The Irishman, I think if that film hits, like I'm thinking it has the potential to hit, I think we can really do things. Because don't forget, Martin Scorsese is a huge advocate of cinema experience. He's the type of guy that for years will find like old classics, films, old Hollywood, like the Red Shoes or Italian classics. He will get them remastered. He will make sure they hit the cinemas at selected dates, etc. And so for him to go down the way of Netflix, a lot of people don't really realize how much of a big thing that is. So yeah, I think it really does have potential there to really change things. And I'm sure Scorsese and Spielberg being friends, they're going to have many debates about it as well. So that's my thing. And Peter, you agree 100%. So Lloyd, as I was saying before, there's a really good film out right now. I'm pretty sure it is streaming. I'm pretty sure it is streaming in Australia, but I'm not 100% because it did have select viewings. But there's a great film out right now called Lords of Chaos. Now this, I reviewed this movie. I gave it 4 stars. So this movie, it's pretty much about the Norwegian black metal scene back in the late 80s, early 90s. Now for people who don't know about Norwegian black metal was already established before that, but Norwegian black metal took it to new extremes. They did things with what they call corpse paint, so it's like white paint with black stuff, and satanic imagery and all this other stuff, but there was other things that came from it, murders, church burnings. Really took kind of like Norway by storm. Norway's like the Norwegian people overall. It is a Christian populace. I think it might be like Lutheran or something. I'm not exactly sure, but get off on that. It really shocked the nation. And there's like, Peter, thank you very much for joining me tonight, and thank you very much for the questions as well. And when I get this up and the podcast up, I'll make sure to tag you so you can hear it. Thank you again, Peter, for your questions, and always thank you for your support. You're you're always up there to like my reviews and such, and I do thank you very much for that. So going back to Lords of Chaos, this is a brutal film about brutal music, really well acted, and it got me thinking actually about heavy metal in film. And I'm actually working on a piece right now. I'm going to do a thing about heavy metal, like a timeline of it. And there's quite a lot out there actually. Documentaries especially. There's some really great documentaries about heavy metal musicians, heavy metal music as a just checking something here. Yeah, heavy metal music as a genuine music movement, especially in the 80s and such. So there's some great things out there in regards to that. So if anyone else has any other questions, please throw them my way. Anything about movies coming up, movies that I've seen, anything you want to know about my career. So I've been doing this now, it'll be 13 years this year that I've been working as a critic. So when I first started out, what we got here? Lloyd, you're asking, do I know anything of the Motley Crue movie The Dirt? What I do know is that it comes out next week, Netflix, March 29. I don't know if you saw the trailer, it looks awesome. This kind of similar to like what I was talking about with that Martin Scorsese film, The Irishman. This was a film that's been in development for a very, very long time, and people keep passing it on the time because I don't know if you read the book. I have. It's pretty full on. There's a lot of debauchery, a lot of like sex, drugs, rock and roll, but taken to the extreme, like real extreme, to the point where the bass player Motley Crue, Nick Six, is out there apologising for things that's happened. So I do know it's coming out March 29, and it's gonna, from the looks of it, it's gonna cover a lot of the stuff in the book, with as much sex and drugs and rock and roll as it can. Netflix, from all indications, didn't want to skimp on any of this stuff. I'm really interested to find out whether they're going to have scenes with like other rock stars in it. So we got the main members of Motley Crue in there, but that book, The Dirt, there's a lot of stories with a lot of rock stars. One of the more infamous ones is, so anyone who knows their Motley Crue history, they actually broke through big time when they went out in support with Ozzy Osbourne. This was back in 1984, 83, and so you got to imagine that Motley Crue are this young, hungry band that will, fuck anything that moves. They'll snort anything that's around. They'll drink everything in sight. They'll fight anyone who wants to fight. And they're going on tour with the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. So they were going back and forth doing just ludicrous stuff on tour. And one of the most ludicrous things was actually Ozzy Osbourne snorting ants, live ants in the corner of some bar. He's snorting them with a straw. I'm not even sure if it was as a dare. I think he just did it because he's just so out of it. So I'm really interested to see whether someone plays Ozzy Osbourne in this film and actually shows that scene in the film. I mean, if they don't, it will be disappointing, but there's so many stories from that movie. There's so many things with the whole Motley Crue as a band. And you talk about the 80s, the debauchery and the sort of things that were happening. This was a time pre-AIDS and pre-HIV, so everyone was sleeping with everyone and everyone was doing every drug under the sun. I'm really hoping that it's like the Wolf of Wall Street in the music biopics. So I don't know if you guys have seen Bohemian Rhapsody. This is of course a mega popular movie about Queen and Freddie Mercury. Look, I like the film. But the problem I had with the film, it didn't go hard enough. Freddie Mercury was a bad man. He was a rock star to the extreme. There's some stories about him and some like the parties that he had and the likes that was just unreal. But of course the film didn't go into that direction. I think because the remaining members of Queen were on as executive producers, so very kind of protective of the Queen image and what Freddie was to them, so they didn't want to push it too hard, and I think Motley Crue is not going to have that problem. The Dirt was a hard book. Motley Crue were a hard rocking, hard partying band. The bass player Nicky Six pretty much died twice from drug overdose, which inspired the song Kickstart My Heart, so it's going to be very interesting to see what that movie's going to be like. It comes out next week, Lloyd, March 29 on Netflix. Can't wait to watch it because, like I said, this is the movie that's been in development for a long time. That book came out ages ago, so I can't wait to see that. And hopefully, if it does hit really well, that more movies will be made. I mean, what other films can be made about rock stars? Like I myself would love to see a movie about Ozzy Osbourne. He's had one of those kind of like great careers as well, and of course he's just beyond famous and beyond notorious, so that'll be a great thing to see. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it won't be a good film and it won't go anywhere, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so heavy metal films, there's a lot of them out there. Working on a piece right now, hopefully it should be up by the end of the week. So as I mentioned before, this will be 13 years this year that I've been working as a film critic, and in that time I've seen a lot of changes in regards to the online sphere, because most of my stuff has been online. I have been published in print. I used to do a lot of freelance kind of stuff. I worked as a freelancer for a few years there for a lot of different magazines, but mostly been online. That's where majority of my content can be found, especially at my website, Matt's Movie Reviews. So this year, year number 13, I'm really pushing to do stuff like this. Video streaming. I'm going to get back to doing YouTube video reviews. Podcasts still coming. So right now I'm working on doing 2 to 3 podcasts a week. I already got a lineup of directors that I want to talk to over the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to try to keep that as consistent as I can. 20 to 25 minute interviews, etc. So that is the goal for that. I might also do a review podcast episode once a week. And there's another thing that I'm working on right now that I've been actually discussing with other film critics for a few months ago, and I was hoping to have it started already, but it hasn't yet. So, and that is this thing called Films That Made Us. I want to talk to other filmmakers and directors and have them choose one film that made them a fan of film. So I will research that film. I come up with a bunch of questions. We'll talk about the film, how we influenced them, etc. So that's something I'm really want to get going right now. And there's another thing I want to get going too, which is I'm kind of working on a podcast away from Matt's movie reviews. It will be movie orientated, that's for sure. I'm still working on it, so I don't want to put it out there yet exactly what it is, but that's something hopefully I should have up and going by the middle of the year. And another thing I want to announce right now is that I'm going to be doing I'm going to be on Patreon starting in April. So for those who don't know, Patreon is a way for people who like my work to subscribe to my stuff and give financial donations. So right now I'm looking to try to get some money behind my ventures, and so I can spread out and invest some stuff in my website and get new tech, do some traveling to different film festivals. The goal is that next year I really want to go to the States and cover some festivals. I really want to go to Canada for the Toronto Film Festival. I want to do South by Southwest. I want to go to these different places. I want to go to the Melbourne Film Festival here in Australia. So I need to get some funding behind me in regards to that. So I'm working on trying to get Patreon up and running and some other things as well. So I can make Matt's Movie Reviews a more profitable venture than it has been over the last couple of years. There was a moment there during the early years when it was making some money out of it. I stepped away from it for a little bit, and now I'm really back into the swing of things. So we're going to start doing more things like this. So I think I really enjoyed this experience tonight. I just want to thank everyone who came out with their likes and their comments and for asking questions. Just scanning now. Peter, since you gave me so many great questions tonight, this Halloween Blu-ray right there, that's for you. I'm pretty sure I got your address on file from previous competitions, so I'm going to send this your way. I thank you very much everyone tonight for coming out and asking me questions. So Lloyd and Peter and Wayne and Jade and everyone else who liked the stream, thank you very much. I'm going to end this now. I think we did over an hour. This was episode number 200 of the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, done live on Facebook Live. I'm going to try to do a Facebook live stream once a month, maybe every 2 weeks. We'll see. I'm going to try to schedule some guests on next time as well. So the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on YouTube, Podbean, SoundCloud, Spotify. If you do see it, please subscribe, please leave a review, please give 5 stars. All this stuff goes a long way in helping me get more downloads and get more guests as well. And like I said before, I've got a bunch of guests already lined up, a bunch of cool podcasts. This podcast itself will go up later tonight, so I'm going to work on it now, and I just want to thank you all again. Lloyd, thank you very much. Awesome effort. Oh, thank you very much, mate. So I'm going to sign off now. Past 9 o'clock. It's time for me to edit this podcast and put it online. And once again, thank you all very much. And we're going to do this again. And next time I think we're gonna talk about comic book movies, and with Avengers Endgame coming out. So I'll try to do it post Endgame. So we're looking at around a month from now. Until then, watch out. Keep an eye out for trailers, new articles like I was talking about, new reviews. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.